Hey guys, Mary White here, registered dietitian here at Fit Society. I just want to go over a couple basic meal principles so we can start looking at building some healthy meals. These are general guidelines and not intended to be specific to any one person, but general population. We want to promote whole food eating and really looking at the sources of food that we're trying to get. So, anyways, let's just start with what I see as kind of our top priorities and when we're looking at a meal. So the first thing that I always like to think about is my protein. What's my protein going to be at that meal? It can be a meat-based source, it can be a plant-based source. Whichever one makes sense for you, that's what we're looking at. So when we look at that, every meal should have about 2 to 4 ounces of protein per meal, depending on the level of protein that we need. So 2 to 4 ounces. That's every meal, guys. That's why we start with protein. Next, we're going to move down to what I think is the next most important, which are vegetables. So our veggies, while we say we can never have too much, they can be overwhelming. But in general, let's see if we can get vegetables at 2 to 3 meals a day. So we're going 2 to 3 servings per meal. Now, if we do more than that, even better. Next, I'm going to move down to our fruits. Now, when we get to our fruits, there is a bit of a limit with fruits. Now, they are their own natural sugars, so it's not like it's a bunch of added sugar. They're born within the fruit, and when we eat the whole fruit, we also get the fiber that comes along with it. So, when we're looking at our fruits, I like to still slightly limit, but 2 to 3 servings of fruit per day. But we don't need much more than that. Also better when we can try to get our fruit kind of earlier in the day, so we're not having it right before we go to bed. We want to use that energy as we're getting it. So max, though, of 2 to 3 servings. Moving down to our next point, we've got fats. So when we're looking at fats, those are things that we add to food to make them more flavorful, like avocados, nuts, seeds, or they're things that we're cooking in. So some healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are things that we're using to kind of enhance flavor to our meals, and fat is important. It's just the source of fat that we're getting. We want to stay away from things like saturated fat, that kind of white part of the meat, although it brings a lot of flavor, not so great for our arteries. So with our fats, we're looking at using 1 to 2 servings per meal. And let's remember that those servings may be in cooking or they may be in adding to. I'll give you examples in just a minute. Last but not least, we have our grains. And when we're looking at our grains, we're talking about whole grains. We're not talking about those white, easy to break down grains like white bread, white rice. We want to go for those whole grains, sprouted wheats, things like that are going to be a lot more full of fiber. They take a lot longer for our body to break down and give us a more steady stream of energy throughout the day. So when we're looking at grains, this one can vary a ton and it can depend on our goals, but in general, we're kind of looking at about 1 to 2 servings of grains per meal. All right, so big picture. Now let's talk about it in terms of food, because we can read about it, but unless we're looking at it as food, sometimes it doesn't always make sense. So let's start with breakfast. Let's say I'm going to have breakfast, and first I'm going to start with my protein. So I love eggs in the morning. I love a savory breakfast. 1 egg is about 1 ounce. So if I had 2 eggs, I've got my 2 ounces there, and maybe I'm going to add 1 ounce of shredded cheese to the top of whatever I'm making. So that could be my 2 to 4. I'm getting 3 there. 2 eggs and about 1 ounce of cheese. I love to also get veggies in at as many meals as I can. So I'm going to probably add about a cup and a half of maybe some spinach, peppers, and onions. Those can saute up in a serving of olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. And then on the side, I can have some berries, about a cup of berries for my serving of fruit. So now I've used these top 4. Maybe it's a day where I got a good workout in and I want to get that grain in to make sure I'm getting all of that fuel into my muscles. So I'm going to have also with that a slice of some whole grain toast. So we've got the eggs, scrambled in veggies, cooked in our fat, with a side of fruit and a side of grain. I just used all of those meal principles and made breakfast, and I made it with whole foods. Let's talk about one other meal just so we can make sure we get that point across. Let's talk about lunch. So maybe for lunch, I'm going to have something like a sandwich. So still, we're going to start up at our protein. Maybe our protein's just going to be some slices of turkey. So whatever, 2 to 4 ounces slices of turkey. I'm going to fill that sandwich with some lettuce, tomato, and onion. I'm going to put a sliced avocado on that sandwich. I'm going to use my 2 grains as my bread. And then possibly I'm going to have a side of maybe some cantaloupe or other mixed melons. But when we start thinking about food in this way, we start looking at food in more of those whole grains. They do transfer into recipes. Yes, that gets a little bit more complicated, but it always breaks down to these general components. So, protein first, always load up with veggies. Fruit, while great, we can still limit to 2 to 3 servings per day. Our fats also, while great, 1 to 2 servings per day, because they do add calories fast. And then lastly, our grains, and let's get those whole grains in. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of help. We definitely have some more videos to further explain what serving sizes and things look like in each of these categories. Thanks, guys.